You know, this is one of those topics that no one really wants to think about, but if you're a parent, a homeowner, married, or helping take care of aging parents, it's something that honestly deserves a little attention. I'm talking about estate planning. And before you tune out thinking it's complicated or expensive, that's actually why I want to mention Trust and Will. Trust and Will makes estate planning feel way less intimidating than it sounds. They offer modern, attorney-designed wills and trusts that you can create online. And the process is surprisingly straightforward. In fact, you can create a will in as little as 30 minutes. That includes things like guardianship for your kids or pets, how your assets are distributed, and even healthcare directives. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/future to get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/future for 20% off. trustandwill.com/FUTURE.
This is Money Move. VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Let's get it going. The madness has begun as we welcome you into Money Moves on a Thursday. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. New digs here today as well at the D in downtown Las Vegas, keeping tabs on all of the action. We had some fun last night rounding out the first four. Both dogs ultimately winning outright, Miami of Ohio and Prairie View A&M. And we thought, at least here in this early window, that we might have an upset in the 8-9 TCU-Ohio State game. TCU is up as many as 15 points at halftime in this thing. Ohio State has more than closed the gap. They're up 53-50.
Yeah, 13-1 run for the Buckeyes right now. And this is what happens when you go 7 of 13 from beyond the arc as a team that doesn't really shoot particularly well. You can build up a 15-point lead, and now that is a 3-point deficit in the point spread in the balance here in the last 6.5 minutes. TCU's offense has been awful here in this second half. Can't hit open threes as they just break another one here. Some of the low post offense has been awful as well. And Ohio State is really rolling. And here you are again, another clean look at the basket. That is now a 15-1 run for Ohio State right now. I tried to make some of it's a very heavy Ohio State contingent in here this morning. And we're talking not just bettors. Like, there are guys decked out in Ohio State gear that I successfully made angry about 15 minutes ago. They are not angry right now.
I am curious how much of that we're going to get from you, because something I learned about JVT, I didn't know this today, is he just likes to be an ambassador of chaos. So there were some Ohio State fans behind us, and he's like, go Frogs, let's go. So you're going to cause a fight over here when we're on the deck?
Yeah, why not? I mean, this is what this is about, man. This is March Madness. This is fun. It's fun to be the lone wolf. We were talking about this. By the way, TCU throwing up the stat 9 of 11. They have missed from the field so far. But if this were to happen, I don't know if we've told the story on the air or not, but this would be the second time that an argument between myself and a fan of an Ohio program would ensue. You broke it up last time. You defended my honor. So let's see if I can start another one and maybe you can defend me.
The last time it was unprovoked.
It was. He had an Ohio State hat on, though, and it was during an NFL Sunday.
I felt like I needed to come to your defense in that moment because this guy was talking trash for no reason and I wasn't having it.
It's great.
Okay?
Don't talk to him like that.
If you started, that's on you. That's not my problem. A couple other games also in action right now, already underway. Nebraska big in that cover number, up 44-30 against Troy, who was a pretty trendy pick as an underdog. They're laying 16 right now on the live line, total 134.5. And then South Florida and Louisville. Speaking of popular plays, USF, at least in our Circa College Hoops Challenge that I know you are a part of, a lot of professional bettors, handicappers in the game, because of that closing line value that you were getting in the contest at the 5.5 with South Florida, knowing Michael Brown was ultimately going to be out for Louisville in this one. 11 of the 12 competitors, I believe, all were on South Florida, ends up closing 3.5. Louisville up big here, 24-11, laying 10.5 on the live.
Yeah, and you could view that as everybody on one side, but especially from a contest standpoint, you're getting 5.5, it closes 3.5. I think it makes sense that you're just going to take some of the closing line value that's given to you there in a contest format. As Ohio State, you hear the crowd, a big dunk, 57-53, 5.5 minutes left to go in the second. No, it's great. But yeah, South Florida right now, 4 of 22 from the field, 1 of 14 from three-point range. We talked a lot about the way some of these teams play, their styles. USF is going to get up and down the floor. They're going to take threes. They're going to try to get to the rim. And sometimes when you play in a neutral court setting like this, unfamiliar backgrounds, things like that, sometimes you're going to get off to some slow starts. But there is volatility in that, which means, Stormy, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point South Florida catches a little bit of fire here and closes the distance a bit. So 24-11, Louisville. at the free throw line. 6:37 left to go in the first half.
South Florida did have a really hot close to the season, won 12 straight, of course, go on to win the American tournament as well, see if they can get back into this thing. Still a whole lot of game left. Speaking of a lot of game left, same thing with High Point and Wisconsin that got underway just a little bit ago. Close game, 3-point game. We're only not even halfway through the first half here at this point. However, I do wonder how high scoring this was going to be because of the whole first half unders theme. I was curious if maybe this might be a little slow starting, if we can keep tabs on this, see if maybe a second half over could be a potential angle later on. I just feel like we're going to get a lot of possessions in this game, but we saw some under money come in. This opened 166.5, ultimately closed 162.5.
Yeah, and that was the expectation, is that we were going to get a fun back and forth game, and it looked like maybe High Point was going to get off to a rough start, but they've closed the distance here a little bit, rattled in at a brilliant 3 earlier. So I would expect that you're going to get some of it when you're talking about the pace, the tempo, the scoring that you want. We've seen the volatility of Wisconsin at times. I mean, they play a little bit more up tempo. Obviously, their offense has been incredible. Defense is fine, top 40 group, but you can get them if you're playing the right system. And I think High Point does just that with the way they play offensively, both with their tempo and the amount of threes they take from beyond the arc. So, ugly mid-range jumper, but an offensive rebound for TCU. I will be distracted today. I apologize.
You mentioned the volatility, though, for a team like Wisconsin. Won some monster games, obviously, this year. They beat Illinois twice, Michigan State, Purdue. They played Michigan hard, winning one of those games in Ann Arbor. Also, though, lost by 14 to Oregon as a 6-point favorite. At home to USC. There's a lot of questionable games. We don't understand, like, what version of this Wisconsin team showed up. So what are we going to get in the tournament? High variance in terms of some of those futures that you might be looking on farther down the bracket for a team like Wisconsin as well. But, okay, listen, this is all in action. We're going to keep tabs on the live games as we go here and preview a lot as well. But this is the Money Moves. We set the table with the show in a very specific way each and every day. So let's go with the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the rundown.
To the surprise of, I'm sure, no one, JVT, we're going to keep it simple today. Games, and more games. That's all we're going to do all day long. We got 16 of them. We're going to preview each and every one throughout the course of the next 2 hours.
Yes, this is what these days are about, man. Very much, very excited for this. These are look, everybody likes to say, oh, the underrated week in conference tournament. I get all of that stuff. But the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament are absolutely fantastic. I will say one of my favorite things about this, it's a good memory, is when I first broke into the business when I was a producer. No, it was when I was an intern, actually. One of the things we had to do was go to a local casino because we had to check on one of the, remotes and whatnot. They're like, here, come on, we'll check this out. And it was the first day of the NCAA tournament. And then we visit the remote, and they're like, all right, cool, come with me. You go upstairs to the second level. Here's a wristband. We're done for the day. You can go ahead and just drink and watch some basketball. And I was like, this job's great.
This is the best job ever.
I love the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. Love the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So why not? All live betting, live games, everything like that. I am down. I've converted you. I've told you we need to do this.
Well, we were talking a little bit about the environment and just the feeling of having the headsets on. It feels a little bit reminiscent when we were in the thick of it in Omaha, the College World Series last year. Just there's something different about hearing the crowd live, reaction, having all of this fun together. It's a different thing, but obviously March Madness is its own animal. And the Horned Frogs retake the lead here, 58-57, less than 4 minutes to go. We're going to have some back and forth action here as we close things out.
This is the best part. We got a man in the slot machine cheering for TCU, yelling at the Ohio State fans. This is why we're here. And of course, you think you expected this. This is a 2.5-point spread. And as we talk about basketball and the volatility, especially when you get a team like TCU shooting 50% from beyond the arc in the first half, you expected there was going to be some regression, and here you are. Despite the fact that they led big, we're right back around the line, of course, and that'll hang in the balance the rest of the way.
And Ohio State had a bit of a turnover problem in the first half as well that was biting them.
Well, and real quick, that's what we've talked about TCU a lot. That was the thing, right? They've supplemented their offense by forcing turnovers, getting out and running, getting easy baskets. Here in the second half, Ohio State has not turned the ball over as much, so they've had to go to their half-court offense, and their half-court offense isn't really great. It's terrible post-ups. It's not really a lot of great guard play. There's been a couple of times where the guard will get a big and blow by him, and then you're like, come on, dude, you've got a layup here, and he just smokes it. So there is some limitations for TCU on offense, especially when they're not forcing turnovers.
A few other games that are going to be tipping off during our hour, just to let you know, the ones that we're going to highlight maybe a little bit more heavily than some of the others, although, like I said, we're going to hit on all 16 today. Siena and Duke coming up at the end of this hour. McNeese, Vanderbilt early on in the noon Pacific. 3 Eastern time area as well. And then North Dakota State and Michigan State also coming up in the next segment. We're going to get some best bets from our guy, Greg Hoops Peterson. What's the
a couple of turnovers and some runouts. South Florida back within 10. Here you go. 4 minutes left in the first. This is what we're talking about.
How about what Nebraska is doing here early? And obviously they're the only major power program that hasn't had a win in the NCAA tournament. They come into this thing 0-8. All of the talk is about how maybe this is a program that they had the hot start that they did, but maybe one that peaked a little bit too early. Troy, they've got the size. Could they be a matchup problem for Nebraska? Test them a little bit. Cornhuskers are saying, listen, we are going to win a freaking NCAA tournament game. We're not going to let this thing be close, at least as of right now.
Yeah, as of right now. But here's the problem for a team like Troy. We talked about their ability to spring the upset, and part of it was, hey, Troy plays at a slow pace. They take a lot of threes. Those are the things you want.
Right.
Problem is, though, while they take a lot of threes, they don't shoot them efficiently. So when you have a big gap like this, 36-27, 56-37, I don't know where that came from. That's hard for a team like Troy to really get back into it because while they do take a lot of threes, maybe they just get hot randomly. Yeah. But for the season, they haven't been an efficient shooting team, and you really needed them to get off to a good start because Nebraska is going to be a really difficult team to grind back in through. Now, you're catching a big number. I think from an upset standpoint, you might be cooked, but you're down by, 19 right now? Depending on what you're looking at, catching 12.5, 13, I think was the closing number. So at the very least, you got some hope for a cover still if you're Troy.
I think that's a great note, though, and catch by you that, yes, Troy is a high-volume three-point shooting team, but there's a difference between volume and actually making them.
Sure.
And sure, if you make them, you can be dangerous. You can get hot and beat anybody. But if throughout the course of the larger sample, you don't have efficiency in that area, it's not going to do you much good.
Yeah, and your bar, if you're a high frequency 3-point shooting team, your bar for efficiency gets lower a little bit just because you take a lot of them. So, but obviously you want to be as efficient as possible. You don't want to be a team that shoots just 32% from beyond the arc when you're taking over 44% of your attempts from beyond the arc. And that's exactly what Troy was in conference play.
This is really cool. Usually when we've done March Madness coverage and stuff, and I love going over at Circa, and we're going to watch a handful of games there in the coming days as well. But because of our studio setup in there, you don't get to actually hear the crowd and stuff. Sure, we'll take shots of the sports book, but being in it is totally different. We're going to have a ton of fun as we go here today. We're going to give you plenty of best bets. We're going to hear from Greg Peterson, like we said, coming up in the next segment. But riding the wave of emotions with everybody in the building here at the D. So stick around. Lots more to come. I mentioned that Duke Siena game that's coming up at the end of this hour. I know our guy Greg has a play. I've got some thoughts as well. Don't go anywhere. So much to come here on Money Moves as March Madness has officially begun.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. It's March, which means the madness is officially upon us, and the folks at VSiN have really gone crazy with this one. I'm being told that for just $29.99, you can get unlimited access to VSiN Pro through May 1st. I'm talking picks through the tournament, public betting data for every single game, plus sharp tools, projections, articles, and more. But here's the thing. There's already a ton up on the site for Champ Week, which means every day you wait is an opportunity missed. Just click the link in the description to get started. It's March, baby. All right, now back to the show.
This is one of those topics that no one really wants to think about, but if you're a parent, a homeowner, married, or helping take care of aging parents, it's something that honestly deserves a little attention. I'm talking about estate planning. And before you tune out thinking it's complicated or expensive, that's actually why I want to mention Trust and Will. Trust and Will makes estate planning feel way less intimidating than it sounds. They offer modern, attorney-designed wills and trusts that you can create online. And the process is surprisingly straightforward. In fact, you can create a will in as little as 30 minutes. That includes things like guardianship for your kids or pets, how your assets are distributed, and even healthcare directives. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/future to get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/future for 20% off. trustandwill.com/future.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
as we welcome you back to Money Moves. This segment presented by Upside. Download the free Upside app and earn cash back every time you fill up your gas tank. Use promo code SPORTS right now as well for 25 cents back per gallon on that first tank. Stormy Bonatoni, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. 1-point game coming down to the wire in the final 2 minutes in TCU. Ohio State, a 15-point halftime lead lost, although up one right now where we sit, and going to the foul line here soon, or what ultimately happened is we saw one of the Horned Frogs players on the ground with a bloody nose.
Yeah, Brock Harding, the team leader in assists and steals, took a elbow from Thornton right to the grill as he was driving to the basket. But insult to injury, I believe it was Harding who got called for the foul. Okay. So I believe it is Thornton who will be going to the free throw line. We will see exactly what the scenario is, but it is a 1-point game with free throws coming and a bloody nose for one Brock Harding for TCU.
Louisville, meanwhile, up 30-22 over South Florida. Wisconsin, a 34-26 advantage over High Point. And then the big one here, Nebraska up 25 against Troy. The Trojans were a pretty popular, trendy underdog here in the first round. Somebody, though, that our boy Greg Peterson did not have interest in playing, as we welcome in Greg Hoops Peterson on the Progressive Guest Line here. VSiN college basketball analyst, host. Check out the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast, wherever you get your podcast as well, Greg. So I know there's a lot of time left here still, about 8.5 minutes, but feeling good with what you have seen from the Cornhuskers at this point?
I absolutely am. I know that Nebraska didn't have the world's greatest end of the season, but if you look at the way that their offense had traveled all season long, a top 35 team in terms of points per possession away from home, and then with this Troy team, I just didn't understand the love for them. I recognize that they were in the NCAA tournament last year. A lot of people were talking about, they take a lot of threes. They're not really a good three-point shooting team. They're better than they were a season ago, but I felt like this was a really bad matchup for Troy because Nebraska essentially dares you to shoot from three, and Nebraska has guarded the three-point line really well. So I'm liking what I'm seeing in that game right now.
All right, Greg, let's take a look at some of these games that are coming up here soon. 11:50 a.m., we have Duke and Siena. What do we make of this? It's obviously a pretty big number. Duke around a 28.5-point favorite, total 135.5.
I think that this could be a game where Duke might experiment a little bit in the second half because keep in mind they're dealing with the Caleb Foster injury. Patrick Ngangba is currently out as well, so they're going to need to see what they're able to get out of some of these other rotation pieces. And for Siena, they're coached by Jerry McNamara. You remember his heroics over at Syracuse many, many years ago, and Siena does a good job with their defense. Top 45 team in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis away from home. They really love to slow things down. There's 365 Division I teams. They are 359th in possessions per game. Duke is right around 275th. So you've got two teams that are looking to play slow. Duke has been an amazing defense, a top two team in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. So I see in that total of 135.5. I like the under, and I took the points with Siena.
Yeah, low total, big spread, certainly something that makes you find the dog a little bit attractive whenever you see something like that. How about a little bit later on this afternoon, North Dakota State taking on Michigan State. Since 15.5, so another one of these big spreads. We had Adam Burke on the program a little bit earlier this week, and he follows a lot of those mid-major conferences. He was pretty high on the Bison. How do you see this one from a spread perspective?
Yep, I took 16.5 personally with North Dakota State. Would still take it at a 15.5. Do a solid job in terms of winning the turnover battle. Michigan State outside the top 200 in terms of turnovers per possession. North Dakota State in the top 125. And North Dakota State does a great job in terms of generating turnovers as well. They're a top 55 team with that regard. And then with Michigan State, the bread is buttered for them in terms of being able to hit the glass. Number one team in terms of defensive rebound percentage away from home. Teams only grab about 19.5% of their misses as an offensive rebound. North Dakota State can match that. They're top 20 team in the country with this category as well. You got guys like Travion Kaysen, Damari Wheeler-Thomas, a company that give you double figures. With North Dakota State, I think that they remain lively against a Michigan State team that they still have one of the most wackety splits that you're going to find in all of college basketball. Shooting 32.7% from three-point range at home, 39.1% away from home. I think that irons out a little bit. So, took the points here with the Bison, and I do like that total under.
Greg, where are you at with Vandy heading into the tournament and this game against McNeese? Because I feel like they're a team worth upgrading. Obviously, they're running the SEC tournament. They've been great defensively. I found myself really coming along on this Commodore squad. But where are you at with them overall and this game coming up?
Overall, I've got them making the Final Four. I
Nice.
have them knocking off Florida in the Sweet 16. I've got them making a serious run. And the reason why, the Duke is back. Duke Miles has been incredible for this Vanderbilt team. 16 points, 2.5 steals per game. One of the main quarterbacks of the defense. And with Vanderbilt. If you notice, a lot of their losses in SEC play, they came when he was out of the lineup. So I think that that's something that was very much worth noting. Now, in this game against McNeese, I think that 12.5 has gone a little bit too far. I would have been willing to lay up to 10. Now that we're at 12 plus. That is my point for me on McNeese, because even though McNeese I don't think wins this game, they're really good at generating turnovers. They lead the country in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis, have some versatility with someone like a Gawari Duel, former top 50 recruit of also Seton Hall and Providence. So I do think that for McNeese, they've got enough firepower to hold in there. But overall, I think that Vanderbilt wins this game by like 10, and then I think they make a deep run in this tournament.
TCU, Ohio State, Horned Frogs up 1 right now, 61-60, 116 to go. Ohio State at the line, keeping tabs on all of this with Greg Peterson, who joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line, VSiN college basketball analyst, host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast. Something that we had talked about earlier in the week is this BYU team potentially being a fade. We got to see Texas already play here in the first 4, getting that win to advance. They're getting 2.5 in the 11-6 matchup, total 158.5. What stood out to you in this one? How do you perceive the Cougars right now?
Right now, the Cougars are playing absolutely no defense whatsoever. Ever since the Richie Saunders injury, they have given up 75-plus points in all but 2 of their games. Meanwhile, for Texas, it's a squad that away from home going into the NCAA tournament, 345th in the country in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. So I think that you get a lot of fireworks in this game. That total 158.5. I do like the over, but you also have a Texas team that is looking to become another one of these teams that goes from the first 4 to win a game in the NCAA tournament. In all but 2 years since we've had the first 4, one team has won at least one game in the round of 64. I think Texas could be that team. You've got Tremont Mark, who's able to knock down big shots. You've been able to get a lot of production as well out of the other backcourt pieces. Mateus Volkatatis has been rock solid down low. Texas seems to have a little bit of an edge on the glass, so took a shot on Texas on the money line.
Greg, I don't know how much of the crowd you can hear here, but back and forth shots made on both ends of the court, and TCU, Ohio State, were tied now once again.
TCU with a huge corner 3 to go up 64-61, and then Bruce Thornton with a hand in his face, desperate heave, hits a 3 to tie it at 64 apiece. We are under 30 seconds left, and TCU has the ball. I apologize. I've been distracting, I think, to Stormy Buonantony, and I should not be. All right. Oh, really quick, Greg. Hawaii, Arkansas. Yeah. This seems like a really fun game. I know it's a big spread, 14.5. We've seen some 15.5s as well. Total 158.5. What chance do you get the Rainbow Warriors here?
By the way, in this TCU versus Ohio State game, I am certainly not rooting for overtime. I have the under, and they don't call it undertime. Yeah. So that is something that I'm very much rooting on. Anyone hit a shot. But that said, I do like the under here in this game as well. Have a Hawaii team that plays up tempo, top 30 team in terms of total possessions per game, but this defense has been rock solid all season long. Top 10 team in the country in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. Where they have an advantage on Arkansas is their rebounding. They're a top 30 team in terms of rebound percentage. Arkansas is outside the top 100, and outside of Trevon Brazil, you really don't have anyone that gives you over 5.5 rebounds per game. Now, slowing down Darius Acuff is going to be tough. Acuff has been so incredible, averaging 22.8 points per game, shoots over 40% from 3. Hawaii, though, a top 50 team with their 3-point shooting percentage defense. Hawaii's going to have a tough time matching up with the overall athletes of Arkansas, but I think that defense keeps them lively. So took the points. I was getting 15.5 with Hawaii. Still like it at 14.5, and I do like that under.
You know, a couple games I haven't really heard strong opinions on. I'm curious if you have one. St. Mary's laying 2.5 against Texas A&M, as well as Gonzaga laying 20.5 against Kennesaw State. Any strong opinion on either one of those games tonight?
I did take the points with Kennesaw State. They're a top 40 team in terms of offensive rebound percentage, and they've been getting better and better by the game because they actually lost Simeon Cottle, their top scorer, due to that FBI probe back in late January. RJ Johnson has helped them pick up the pieces, so I do like Kennesaw State getting those points. And then for St. Mary's, this team has been so incredible on the glass, and I have St. Mary's actually knocking off Houston in the round of 32. I feel like this is a great matchup for them. Texas A&M, overall 87th in the country in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis. Not the same team away from home. That falls outside the top 235. A&M 185th with regards to rebound percentage. St. Mary's in the top 5. And St. Mary's a top 30 team with their 3-point shooting percentage. Perhaps the most balanced team that Randy Bennett has had since he took the job. So I like St. Mary's here laying that number. I took the points with Kennesaw.
Greg, happy March Madness. Thanks for doing this, buddy. Enjoy the day.
Always appreciate it. Thank you.
You are sweating out TCU something fierce right now.
Little high-low game. Xavier Edmonds seals his dude down in the restricted area, gets a tough finish, 66-64, 4 seconds left, TCU up on top. This is what we're looking for, man. It's the first game of the day.
Oh, man. Do you have a gut feeling?
No, I don't. Gut feeling. I see TCU.
Can your boys close this out?
I'm 0-2 in the contest in the best bets of the first 2 weeks, so I need a dub here. So let's get it done. Start the day well.
Reminder, everybody, also, if you want to start the day well, you could be getting extra money when you're filling up your gas tank with the free Upside app. Use promo code SPORTS right now. Get 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up as well. New users earning hundreds of dollars a year just by driving like they normally do. Start now with the Upside app. Promo code SPORTS. See upside.com for details. We'll be right back. More chaos upon us.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Oh, man, I wish we were on the air as that TCU-Ohio State game closed out. You see JVT clapping his hands just now. TCU getting it done. Final score, 66-64. Horned Frogs win as a 2.5-point dog. Total goes well under. And Bruce Thornton tried the half-court heave off the glass and out. So kudos to you on the dub. And we got our first contest winner of the Circa College Hoops competition.
Always good to start the day with a winner. It can only go downhill from here, though, so we'll see. But a great game, a fun game, obviously. And right on the point spread, all of the drama in the world. So that is a way to start the day for sure. So now we're still sweating everything out. And let's start here. 1:20 left to go in the first. High Point is giving Wisconsin all it can handle right now, 39-36, a 3-point win, or excuse me, a 3-point lead for the Badgers. And we've talked about this, the volatility of the defense, the fact that High Point's offense can stick around. Blackwell's at the free throw line right now for Wisconsin, but this is a big day so far for High Point, and a lot of people thought 2 dogs are going to be live here in the early window. One of them, not so much. Troy is getting their rear ends kicked, but High Point at least sticking around so far.
Yeah, 73-47.
Tie game.
Advantage for Nebraska right now. 39-39 now in this High Point Wisconsin matchup. 30 seconds to go and counting as we close things out. With that, though, I mean, high scoring is all get out. That live total up to 168.5 after closing 162.5. Saw a lot of under money come in, actually.
Yeah, and to your point, I know you wanted to bring this up. I believe we're at 5-2 to first half unders in this NCAA tournament, if we're including, of course, the first 4 games. So this has been a trend that a lot of people like to play early on, and so far it's off to a solid start. We will see if that continues. But here, I think this is what you kind of expected. It seemed a little too easy, but the expectation with the pace and the level of play, you would have thought that this was going to be something we could see one of those shootouts early on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, the USF Louisville game has not really been there, obviously, with the way that the USF has played.
Yeah, those first half unders, they're like Ryan Kramer, the whole Sports Gambling Podcast Network crew. They've been tracking that data for a long time. I know he's been doing a lot of spots on the network this week, kind of talking through the perspective and the angles and just the unfamiliarity of a lot of these gyms for some of these players. Biggest game of their lives for some of these teams, right? And just the maybe relatively slow start. Obviously, though, like we said, not slow whatsoever, that High Point Wisconsin game to get us going. But yes, a 10-point separation here for Louisville right now against South Florida, and we saw this number come down significantly in favor of the Bulls. They were a very trendy underdog. We even had one listener that was tweeting into us yesterday saying, nobody's talking about Louisville, South Florida. They could be a dog with fleas. Maybe. Still a long way to go as we are just at halftime here with a 10-point game. Live number, though, for the rest of the game, Louisville -7.5 after the close 3.5, right? Like we talked so much about Michael Brown and how important of a piece that he is for that team, not having him, what that might look like against a team like USF that could be competitive in this spot.
Right, and let's, we always view these games through the prism of the closing line. Remember, this opened 6.5, was 5.5, was 4.5, so there's a lot of different people with a lot of different numbers. Only a 10-point game, like you said. If you're sitting on that 6.5, even that 5.5, you're obviously feeling much better, or at least somewhat confident you can still get inside of this number. And one would expect, I'm going to say, that USF is not going to continue to shoot the way that they are. Again, they're 10 of 35 from the floor. They're 1 of 17 from beyond the arc in this game. That is not what this South Florida team is. So maybe a little bit of a second half regression, maybe a second half over as well we could look at here between these two as South Florida gets a little bit more comfortable, because they are getting killed right now. Just in terms of the three-point shot, you're behind by about 18 points, and that's going to be something that is going to kill you at any point.
Reset at the half, see how that plays out. By the way, we mentioned that score and breakdown of Nebraska-Troy. Just under 2 minutes remaining in that game as well. We'll hit you when that ultimately goes final. But of course, as you're betting all things college basketball, the NHL, UFC, soccer, the NBA, everything. We've got free picks backed by real analysis with Just Win Bets, baby mathematical models, and AI-driven best bets across all leagues. Plus, a live weekend preview each and every Friday as well. You subscribe on YouTube, follow on X, get their free daily best bets and the newsletter, justwinbetsbaby.com. Speaking of the NBA, JVT, you are obviously one of our resident big-time NBA analysts here at the network, and we got some big news in the league earlier this morning that Detroit Pistons star Cade Cunningham, who we knew exited Tuesday's game against Washington with what was initially listed as a back contusion. Shams Charania earlier this morning, something a little bit more serious, was diagnosed with a collapsed lung. He's expected to miss now an extended period of time. And why is this so big? Well, Detroit, currently sitting in first place of the Eastern Conference, is their best season in nearly 20 years. He is such a key cog to what they do. Like, how many times have we talked on this program when we were looking at some of the MVP odds about what is this Detroit Pistons offense without Cade Cunningham?
As we've seen, too, in some of the games in which they have lost, some of the big-time games, especially against San Antonio Spurs, the strategy was, let's just put our best defender at Cade Cunningham and see if we can shut him down and nobody else is going to beat us. And that's exactly what transpired. So the Pistons, without him, are in big trouble. So it makes a lot of things interesting. So first off, let's just talk about the timeline itself. CJ McCollum has dealt with is one of like the barometers you want to use, because he's dealt with a collapsed lung actually multiple times in his career, 2021, 2023. In 2023, he only missed 3 weeks. In 2021, he missed 6 weeks. So it depends. And from my medical study, watching The Pit on HBO, I guess there's degrees to which you can have a collapsed lung. The Pistons have already announced that they will reevaluate him in 2 weeks. Yep. So that means, not that he's back, but they will check on him and then see what's going to happen. That is relevant for a few things, but I think one of the most interesting things, we brought this up on Hardwood Handicappers today, was on with Zach Cohen, seeding. They are right now the 1 seed. They are 3.5 games up on the Boston Celtics for the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're only 5 games up on the Knicks for the 3 seed. Oh. So it's going to be very fascinating to see, first off, from a seeding standpoint, how far they slip, because I think they're going to without Cade Cunningham. So it's 2 weeks without him. The other aspect story is, if this is the longer timeline, what if he is out for like 6 weeks? That puts you at the tail end of the first round. And this is the other thing I brought up. I think this is a huge development for our Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
Because if the Hornets, we talked about them in the grand scheme of the Eastern Conference, and we should just say, too, just zoom out for the Southwest Division or Southeast Division in general, because all 3 teams are currently in the play-in: Miami, Atlanta, and Charlotte. Atlanta's won 11 straight. The Heat are playing a lot better, and we know what the Hornets are. Let's say they stay in that 1-2 range. I don't think Detroit, especially without Cade Cunningham, wants to see any one of those 3 teams in a first-round series, and they most likely will.
Yeah.
So this is really big for seeding. It's really big for the Pistons' lives, which I think a lot of us expected to be very short-lived in the postseason, given the way they're constructed. And we should note, too, if you've got a Cade Cunningham first All-NBA team, that's pretty rough, too, because if he misses enough time, he's going to be right up against the 65-game minimum. And if he misses more time, he won't make it, and you're not going to cash that ticket.
I know you gave the virtual timeline, I will say, and it's very different injuries, but, I mean, Steph Curry was supposed to be reevaluated how many times, and he still hasn't come back. So Cade Cunningham going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. But what is that going to look like? I don't know enough about the lungs. I am not a doctor, but I feel like with something like that, even once it's reinflated or whatever the term is going to be, how comfortable are you still breathing after that? Right. Is that something that can happen again to you in short order if you return too quickly? Yeah. I don't know. So it'll be really interesting when we hear more from the team come through what this is going to look like.
Well, and to your point, from a regular season standpoint, if I'm the Pistons, sorry, screw the regular season.
Sure.
Screw your 65-game minimum, buddy. Like, our priority is that you are fully healthy by the time we get to the postseason, because we desperately need you. Nebraska is going to get a cover here, 76-47. Absolute beatdown of the Troy Trojans. Not even close. So that one was pretty impressive there, I would say, from Nebraska. A team that a lot of people, including myself, really doubted. And we talked about, hey, what's going to happen here? Is Nebraska going to hold on or maybe even get upset? And not the case. That was a very impressive showing for the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
They did it. Finally, first ever win in the NCAA tournament. You can get that monkey off your back. You are advancing to the round of 32. And how about Price Sanford? 7 made triples in the win for him ultimately today. 23 points to lead all of Nebraska scorers. big game, big opportunity for the Cornhuskers in this spot. To go back here last minute or so about where we sit with the Detroit Pistons, they are in action today. It's against the lowly Washington Wizards, but still laying 13.5 without your best player, who is your offense. That's not necessarily a price I would want to lay.
No, not exactly. And do you want to say, like, would you really want to include them as on the money line parlay as well? Would you trust it?
Too, by the way.
So I don't know if you would want to trust it at all in that standpoint. This seems to be a very easy stay away game.
Yeah.
Although you talk about the opening number, I think this got bet up a little bit in some spots depending on where it opens. So this is an easy one to scratch off. Detroit has been a very good defensive team without Cade Cunningham, floating around like the 80th percentile defensively, but they're well below average offensively without him, and that's going to be a very big problem.
And Detroit, despite sitting where they do right now in the Eastern Conference, they are 7th on the board to win the NBA Finals when all is said and done, a 25-1 shot. You see the Celtics, the Cavs, and the Knicks all from the Eastern Conference above them in that spot.
And it should be. I mean, I think that you see this with young teams at times. You see what you have, and then you see what you need to add in the postseason. They didn't really add much, and I think that's going to be it. They desperately need another creator. Similar to when Luka had Kyrie in Dallas or Jalen Brunson with him, and now he's got Reeves. That's what you really need, I think, next to Cade Cunningham, and I don't think they're a real threat here.
All right, as you mentioned, that Nebraska game has gone final. We are at the half in our other 2 live games in action right now. South Florida trailing Louisville by 10, 37-27 as we await the second half tip-off to get underway in short order. And Wisconsin High Point just entered the half. Wisconsin with a 2-point advantage, 41-39. So High Point does cover that first half spread for you. Can they for the full game? We'll touch on it all as we continue to roll here at the D, monitoring all things March Madness on a Thursday. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Oh, what a day as March Mania officially underway. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas at the D. By the way, as we're sweating out all these games, we're talking through things. You want to chime in, join the conversation, ask us a question or two, always tweet at us, at MeJVT, at Storm Buonantony, at VSiN Live. We do have the first 2 games of the day having gone final. TCU, as a short 2.5-point dog, gets the upset in the 9-8 game against Ohio State, 66-64 there. Also, Troy, Nebraska, huge win for the Cornhuskers. Never in doubt covering that 13.5, a 29-point win for them. Total falls well under, 76-47 the final there. And in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so, we're going to have tip-off out there in Greenville, South Carolina between Siena and Duke for our first 16-1 of the weekend. Duke laying 28.5 right now, your top overall seed, riding an 11-game win streak, 121-22 coming into this one, but as we know, dealing with some injuries, so potentially laying such a big number early on. Hearing more about the games down the line, could Siena potentially be a dog? No.
I think they're probably going to get smoked here, and I would very much be on the side of looking at Duke here or nothing else. I mean, you don't have a lot to go on, right? Siena is obviously playing in the MAC, so there's not a lot of comparable competition. The only power opponent that they faced this year was Indiana. They went on the road and played them. They lost 81-60. Wasn't even really close. Yeah. So you look at Duke, I mean, I would probably expect that they're going to be able to name their score. Greg had an interesting look at it, which was Greg Peterson was with us earlier in the program, who said, hey, look, maybe in the second half, if you're up big, are you experimenting with lineups? Are you trying different things? Are you looking to see what you could get because of the injuries you've suffered? I think there's probably something to that, but the talent discrepancy is so large. And Siena doesn't really have a ton of a profile that would tell you that they could really spring this year. Don't take a ton of threes. Don't shoot the ball particularly well. Did lead the Metro Atlantic in offensive efficiency, but a lot of that was through an offense that really got inside and rebounded relatively well. I don't think you're going to do that against a Duke team that has the size that they do.
Duke, of course, led all of college basketball in average margin of victory this year as well, plus 19.1 points per game. 9 of their 32 wins this year did come by 30 or more points, so it's not like they are a stranger to winning by a significant margin in this spot. The injuries, though, I mentioned, just to reiterate for somebody who might not have been keeping tabs on this as much, their starting point guard Caleb Foster has been out for a while, which has forced Caden Boozer, Cam Boozer's brother, brother to lead there at the point. He doesn't have a backup either, so you will see with the 7-man rotation some interesting characters bringing the ball up the court if Caden needs a little bit of a rest. Patrick Ngomba missed the ACC tournament. He's in a walking boot. John Shire did say yesterday he's not going to play today, but progressing day to day with the hope to have him back for Saturday. So looking beyond in the NCAA tournament, do you still feel good about Duke in what we know is a very competitive east side of the bracket? How have you unpacked them? Have you unpacked their potential matchups going through here in a potential run as the number 1 overall seed trying to win a national championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think you feel pretty good about them through the first 2 rounds. They're going to take on, if they win this game, likely, they will take on TCU, who just won against Ohio State. We've seen limitations of TCU offensively, so I think you feel relatively confident they can get there. But once you get to the Sweet 16, that's where it starts to get dicey. Is it St. John's or Kansas? One would assume, again, that those are the likely 2 opponents for you. If you're still thin at that point, and maybe you're not, we'll see if that's the case, because that's, of course, going into next week. But I think that you're a little worried once you get into the thicker part of the bracket. I have Michigan State coming out. Michigan State was part of my Final Four. That tells you, I think, where I'm at with this Duke team, where ultimately I had them facing Michigan State, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get eliminated in a team they took on earlier in the non-con. By the way, I just want to point out really quickly, we are back and forth immediately here between Louisville and South Florida, just trading buckets. So that scoring we were talking about, hey, it was a little slow in terms of scoring and efficiency. We are right back to it. And South Florida has cut this thing down to 8 with 17:50 left to go in the second.
Yeah, 41-33 Louisville on top right now. For this Duke Siena game, what I'm curious about in terms of, I was looking at this total as well. Can Siena do their part? That's been my question about everything.
Yeah.
Yes, you're getting a huge number. Yes, this total is super low. But can you do your part to get us over? And can you do your part, even in terms of a backdoor cover situation, do what's needed to be done? I don't know. I stayed off of this. For me, I think similar thought process to you. It would have been Duke or pass had I got involved in this game, but ultimately didn't play anything.
Yeah, I think so. That's pretty much how I handle it. I mean, I think, I don't even know. I know for our college hoops challenge, I don't believe I used Duke. I used a couple of the big favorites, but that was not here.
How many selections were on this game?
I have this in front of me. 2 were on Siena. Plus 29.5.
And nobody on Duke. So just taking a shot. And you did get the extra point at least with those contest numbers. And for anyone wondering what we're talking about, the Circa College Hoops Challenge, JVT, a number of VSiN hosts and analysts, college basketball handicappers, professional bettors. It's a group of all of these guys with their picks having to be made official in each round as we go, keeping track of it all to see who will win it all. What's your ultimate prize?
I think we either choose between a cabana or a comp at
right on.
At Barry's.
You got to get the dub.
Yeah.
So that we can have some fun for free.
I was thinking, I can't today because we're a little busy, but, after last night, I was thinking Barry sounds pretty good. You know what I mean?
After last night? Oh.
Yeah.
You haven't even told anybody about this yet.
Oh, I posted it up on Twitter, but hit a Royal Flush last night at a local bar, then upped it up to $5 hands, and then may or may not have gotten a 4 of a kind as well, 2 3s and 4s. So it was a good night yesterday. And
doesn't need the Barry's comp. You're rolling.
That's right. So, just go get some Brussels sprouts and some steak. Sounds delicious.
That was my next question, is because of the 75 hard that you're on right now, would you struggle going to a place like that in what you have to order?
No. I like the Brussels sprouts, and the steak's awesome. So no,
don't they have added stuff on their Brussels sprouts though? Isn't there bacon and stuff? Can you have bacon? Is that part of the? I don't know your deal.
Yeah. Bacon is fun.
A lot of stuff going on, man. I don't know your life. Again, just to update you here as we go, and we'll repeatedly do this throughout the course of the day. We're going to hit on as many games as humanly possible here in the next hour and a half. But High Point, Wisconsin, still just sitting in a close game right here at halftime, 41-39. As soon as that tips off for the second half, we'll let you know. That current number, though, JVT, Wisconsin laying 7.5. Live total 166.5. High Point for those people that were obviously in on the dog here. This was a pretty popular underdog. I know you got the better of this number than some other people did because you were on the live show as all the lines were coming down. We know. But High Point was getting played a lot. And for a team like Wisconsin that we talked about early on this hour and the volatility, that they're a team that could go on to an Elite Eight or maybe get bounced from the first round.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much playing to what we expected. I I would say from that standpoint.
Yeah, I don't think any of these are going to be easy for Wisconsin as we've watched them here. And when you look at the way these two teams have played, nothing really sticks out from High Point's box score that you're looking at and saying, okay, they're not going to be able to sustain this as we move forward into this game. There's one thing to watch that maybe they start to regress a little bit here. On the glass, they have out-rebounded Wisconsin, not just in total rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds and just 3 for Wisconsin. So High Point is generating second-chance opportunities. Generally, Wisconsin has been a better rebounding team than that. They haven't been one of the best, but they are a top 75 team in terms of defensive rebounding so far this season. High Point has been a relatively decent team, but again, 123rd in offensive rebounding. So, do the second-chance opportunities dry up, and then maybe Wisconsin's able to pull away, cover a 7.5-point line, which is the line right now for the game, up by 2 at the break. We'll see. Also, for me personally, not a good enough spot to find the middle. The other thing we're pointing out that's not good for Wisconsin, though, is that because of these second chance opportunities, High Point only down 2, shooting 38% from the floor and 26% from 3. They're 6 of 23 from deep.
For 17 minutes to go in the second half for South Florida and Louisville, 44-33, the advantage now in favor of the Cardinals. 8.5 is the live line. Is this just kind of a stay away spot right now with the way that South Florida has played?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they're starting to get out a little bit and run more, but it's not like the three-point shot has come along. Like when I've been watching here, you've been getting some steals, you've been getting some runouts, and you've been getting some easy buckets in transition. But the half-court offense, we haven't still seen a ton of that makes you think that they're going to start to turn things around. And you got to get stops, man. Like that's the other part about this, and they haven't really done that yet. 11-point game, make it a 11-point game on the missed free throw, 17 minutes left.
As we're talking about all these games, obviously we mentioned the Circa College Hoops challenge that you're involved in, but that is an invitational. Something you can still get involved in even though first round games are underway today is the Splash Sports $1 Million Survivor Contest. And even though, like I said, even if you haven't signed up yet, with all of the games coming up tomorrow, there's still plenty of time to get involved and have a little bit of fun. Just like the NFL Survivor Contest, we do 1 pick per day. Can't use the same team twice. Last one standing is going to win a share of $1 million. It's a $1,000 entry, $1 million on the line. New players use the code VSIN MM26. You'll get a 50% deposit match up to $100 on that. Splashsports.com/VSIN. But like I said, time is dwindling. Entries do close later on tonight. 10 p.m. Eastern is the deadline. So get in there while you can. Get involved. Have some fun. Play the Splash Sports Survivor. Splashsports.com/VSIN. Code VSIN MM26. Must be 21 or older. Available in select states only. We got to step aside here, but when we come back, like we mentioned, CNN Duke set to tip off here in a moment. Also coming up in the next 20 minutes, McNeese and Vanderbilt. We'll have North Dakota State, Michigan State before we know it. So lots more to get to. And with a full card of games today and tomorrow, we're previewing it all as we go here. Stick around. More money moves on a Thursday coming up after this quick timeout.